The sun always sets twice. Written by Justadair. Every day, at least every one of mine, the sun always sets twice. I can't explain it, and I don't expect you to understand. How could I? No one does. Nor does anyone ever believe me. I've tried to explain it, but I end up either being called weird or the butt of jokes. I can't go to school, but you'll understand why later. The first time it happened was years ago. Before then, nothing seemed out of place. I was at the park with a bunch of friends, just enjoying the summer. Propped up on my elbows, I gazed out across the lake languidly and listened to the distant sounds of laughter and splashing. Passive noises always lull me into an almost meditative state, and my thoughts were both everywhere and nowhere at once. The smell of burgers grilling and suntan lotion were a sweet mixture on the breeze. The sky slowly changed as fingers of sunlight curled in its leaving. Purpling clouds were couched in the soft tangerine of the early evening. Serenity is the only word I've ever found which matches moments such as these. I watched with my friends as the sun set. As the final edge of the glowing saucer slipped below the horizon, everything glitched. A harsh, grinding sound filled the air, and my stomach rose as my head cleaved apart in wrenching pain. The world spun, and I began retching hard. Nothing came out, not even bile. It's always just a dry heave. Art, okay? Hey, get help. Were snippets of what I heard my friends say before a slashing darkness, like the blip in between cutscenes in a film, happened. At that moment, my stomach stopped lurching. The headache, which is the only way I can describe having both halves of your brain ripped down the center, dissipated. I cramped into a ball and clutched my towel. Sweat chilled me as the world slowly stopped spinning. I started picking back up on life around me as my breathing slowed. I smelled the burgers and suntan lotion. I heard the playing and splashing. But none of my friends were there, and the people, they weren't the ones I remembered seeing. I watched the sunset for the second time that day, fearing. As it dipped below the skyline, I felt within me for any sign that the same thing would happen. Sometimes, when we think we're sick, we try to enhance those feelings in order to understand them better. Or to stand on solid ground knowing that we aren't. As a parting shot, a direct beam of light hit me square in the face, then disappeared. Night began unfurling its speckled cloak, and I had to be back by 10, so I grabbed my towel and headed home. When I got there, my parents were hysterical. Gripping me by the shoulders and shaking me, my mother spat out, "Where the hell were you?" "I'm sorry," I said with a sideways glance at the clock, which read 10:20. I must have lost track of what? Of time? My father yelled. I stared at them dumbfounded. They've never been this pissed over 20 minutes before, I thought. Stammering, I said, "I'm only 20 minutes late." I looked from face to face in the ensuing silence. My mother, father, and even my sister sitting on the couch seemed frozen in time. Everything except the grandfather clock in the corner, that is, which ticked a steady beat. There are moments when you know that everyone is sharing the exact same thought, and we were all dreadfully aware of each passing second. "It's been 24 hours," my mother whispered, punctuating each word painfully. 24 hours. echoed through my mind. My head swam at this, and I started picking up on small things.
24 hours.
Everyone was wearing different clothes.
24 hours.
My sister's school books were different.
24 hours.
She dyed her hair. I grappled with what my mother said and saw how sallow they all looked. Like they'd been up all night worrying. I'm sorry. I blurted, confused, and began sobbing. How could this be? How could I have lost that much time? This is impossible. I babbled and bawled simultaneously, telling them what had happened. I was beset, remorseful, and utterly confused. The atmosphere changed and they tried calming me down. I can't say for sure how the rest of the night went. My memory of it is scattered. A few things, however, I can say. My father was on the phone with the police and my friend's parents, letting everyone know that I had returned. My mother cradled me while my sister texted. Finally, I threw myself under my blankets and slept. I dreamt wildly, vividly, and restlessly. These were untouchable dreams, the ones your conscious mind protects you from when you wake. I slogged out of bed exhausted and floated through a day, softened and undefined by a strong disbelief in reality. Through the muffle, I heard my friends whisper with others, and I felt alone and alien. After school, I went home, did my homework, and set the table, just as always. My dad fired up the grill, and we ate. Everything was fine, until the sunset. As the final direct sunlight hid, that awful, grinding sound reverberated through my skull. My stomach became a pretzel, and I dropped to the ground, heaving again and again. Arms wrapped around me, and I heard a robotic voice ask through the static, "What's wrong?" Cut scene. Gagging, sweating, and crushed into myself. I felt a reduction, a sense of relief. My brain shrinking to normal and the warm touch of the sun leave my face. I shiver and cry out, and my family rushed from the house and scooped me up in a tight embrace. Our shared confusion and terror poured from us all as we wept together. This was the beginning of our nightmare. I'll spare you the details of the years that followed. Suffice it to say, I saw doctors and became institutionalized. No one could help. No one can, it seems. 6 sunsets ago, my parents realized that the scientists studying me saw me more as a guinea pig to learn from, rather than a patient to treat, so petitioned my release and I went home. I'm sitting here now with my tongue mashed, swollen, and unusable. When I got home, something changed. This is why I'm writing now. 5 sunsets ago, while lying in my bed, waiting for the end of the day, the glitch hit me harder. This time, my heart pounded and I sensed danger like never before. I was forced bolt upright and I tried to catch my breath and balance at the same time. My vision split. The room pulsed electrically to the rhythm of my heart and then triplicated, separating. I saw 3 versions of it side by side, and each was a different, translucent color. And then, nothing. I blacked out. I have no idea if time passed or how much, but I was woken in the divide by an unvoiced question. In the rushing pitch dark to my right was a neon green, yet transparent, orb of energy. The question posed, "Will you join me or go back into the darkness?" was answered instantly, and I found myself both inside and outside of it. The surge of delirious power was remarkable. It moved at breakneck speeds, and I was overwhelmed. From inside, I spoke, but heard my voice projected outside in a deeper, throaty tone, saying, "Oh my god, oh my freaking god." Every move it made was absolute perfection. I'd never felt anything like it before. Imagery came to mind as we shifted and traveled. At times, it was like a roller coaster dipping, swerving, and ascending. At other times, I was flying downhill on a mountain bike through narrow strands of trees. All the while, it was reaching out, making connections and pulling things inside. I still can't understand what exactly was happening, but it felt like rebuilding. There was an urgency to it all, some underlying fear. It needed to make every move exactly. Nothing could be out of place, and it had something to do with what was lurking in the darkness just to our left. I was aware that out in the black was another entity, and we were racing. It was never defined, and I was too caught up in the shock of feeling perfection for the first time in my life to ask. But we needed to reach a certain point before it did. I knew we would, and the closer we got, the more my ecstasy grew. "Yes, yes!" I shouted. Just before we reached that spot, blackout. I woke up to my mother wiping a bloody froth off my face. She told me I had reappeared in a seizure. I swallowed iron. My tongue was a smashed potato that filled my mouth. Closing my eyes, I slept until morning. Every setting sun since, I've taken that ride, and each time that perfection has become incrementally less so. Every second sunset since, I've woken up seizing. I'm terrified of every evening, every race, and what it means to lose, and every time I open my eyes again. I'm writing this because I can no longer speak, and this evening might just be my last chance to share.